Now coming to tonight's session, please allow me to welcome Puja Kohli, the moderator of the session. Puja has about 22 years of experience as a human resource leader, providing strategic thought to shape human capital solutions for global and local organizations in India. Puja is the founder, director of Unfold Consulting, an organization that offers unique people and change-based solutions to build winning cultures that are inclusive, intrapreneur, and future-ready for clients across industry. Puja works closely with the Indian Women Network, CII Karnataka. She has had leadership roles with companies like Accenture and CGI in her career. Great to have you here, Puja. Handing the session over to you now.
Thank you, and a huge pleasure to be with all of you this evening. It's late on a Saturday evening, but I'm glad to see that we have attendees. Quick introduction to this panel. It is about women and product leadership, and it's a huge pleasure to also be with three very dynamic women leaders who've had three diverse careers. And of course, I'm going to really talk about their journey. So it's a random order. So I'm going to start introducing with Smitha. Smitha Murthy, she's the Global Head of Product Management, Axtria Ingenious Insights. Smitha has 20 plus years of experience as a product management executive and general manager with expertise in driving innovative customer experiences through digital transformation, data science, and analytics. She has successfully led multi-million-dollar product lines and brings global experience in developing business strategy, product vision, and product management for B2B and SaaS products. A little, a greater insight into her leadership is that she was shortlisted as the Digital Leader of the Year award by Women in IT in 2020. And of course, there's a lot more to her, but without much ado, welcome so much, Smitha, to this panel. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Puja. Happy to be here.
Our next leader is Suparna Dev, Product Manager, SAP Business Technology Platform. She has an industry experience of 16 plus years in software technology domain. She has played various roles of product owner, product manager, development manager in her career, spanning across various domains like cloud application development, machine learning, ERP. She's an active member of the Product Management Forum in SAP Labs, which works to cultivate a strong product management community known for thought leadership. She has been part of NASSCOM initiatives to build AI curriculums. A very warm welcome to you, Suparna. Looking forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And our third panelist is Deboshree Datta, another global leader. She's an entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Roomplace. She's a tech entrepreneur, product management leader with over a decade of experience leading global product, UX and engineering teams in the Silicon Valley at companies like PayPal, Microsoft, Cisco. She's also invited to the Forbes Leadership Council and co-leads the Women in Product Bay Area chapter. And as the founder and CEO of Roomplace, is an interior designing platform with mission to democratize interior design. And Roomplace, interestingly, empowers women-led small businesses in the interior design space. So three very dynamic, interesting women, and we're going to dive into this panel. But before we do, I'd like to have a quick poll. We have two questions, one after the other, just to get a sense of, your insights about the audience today. So can I request for poll one? Okay, so we have 57% women and 43%, 57% men and 43% women. So it's a bit of a balanced audience. That's great to know.
Puja and audience, the first answer is I'm a man and I have worked with women product managers.
Yes.
So here we have 64% men who have worked with women product managers.
Fantastic.
The rest are not. They have not worked with. And 36% of women have worked with women product managers.
Great. So it's a great representation. It's good experience. Great. So you're keeping that view in mind, and which is a very healthy view as part of the audience. but we are also in a world where there isn't too much equity. And while gender equity at work is, it's a rising dialogue, it's a rising journey, but typically there is a gap of women in product management. And this is not just in India, but worldwide. And today, as we have three very dynamic women leaders, my first question to them really would be that what inspired you to build a career in product management? And, we can go with Smitha first, and the way I introduce, we can, then go with Suparna and Deboshree. So it's an individual question of your, the inspiration behind you choosing this career in product management.
Sure, Puja. I think I have to rack my brain about this because it's a 20+ year journey for me. What inspired me to be, first of all, I'm a computer engineer in my undergrad. Then I worked for several years before I went and did my MBA. I think throughout that journey, what was most satisfying for me is when I was interacting with customers and they were either happy, sad, or indifferent towards my product. And I wanted to make that a delightful experience. So that is what really motivated me to be in product management. So I pursued my MBA while I was still working as a software engineer. So I think that's what started my journey. And I think that hasn't stopped. It's what keeps me going in this profession. Being able to, it sounds cliched, but being able to provide those delightful customer experiences which translate to business success and business growth is what keeps me going. And it actually also provides a focus for the career to overcome some of the challenges that come along the way.
Sure. Great. So the whole passion to create something and make a difference through building products, that's really been, I'm so sorry, that's really been your journey. So Suparna, is, for you, what really drove you, and you've been a practitioner, you've sort of grown through the ranks, but what really drove you into this field to move from project to product management?
Sure. So I started as a Java developer. While solving the problems of customer, I was very fascinated by how our product manager used to bring the requirements from customer. So around the same time, I got introduced to this concept of design thinking. There was a train the trainer training, and I attended it. And I really loved the exercise of finding the customer persona, digging into the customer's problem, and then finding a solution. This whole process totally fascinated me, and I looked at the bigger picture instead of only focusing on a single point. This was the trigger. So this is where I started really thinking from a customer perspective and thinking, how can I bring a solution to a customer's problem? My manager luckily recognized my skills, and there was an opportunity, and she was okay, why don't you go for it? And that's how it all started. So that was my whole tryst with design thinking and my fascination with customer problems and trying to find a solution for the customer that triggered this whole journey.
Very interesting. So the need to solve problems and think from a design perspective inspired you to get into product management. Deboshree, I mean, while you're a owner, a founder today, but what really drove you? And you've had great experiences with some leading brands. What drove you? What inspired you into product management?
Not much different from both Smitha and Suparna, to be honest. I mean, there's similar drivers for why people are attracted to the product management space. I think one additional thing, at least personally for me, was I have for a long time wanted to build something of my own and kind of be in the driver's seat and kind of get a chance to kind of do something end to end. It's hard to do that when you're just starting out. And I was seeking opportunities where someone is willing to take a chance on me, give me a small little project and just go play with it, just go seek a playing ground and hone your skills from there. And I actively seeked out opportunities. So I have a I'm a master's in computer science from Carnegie Mellon. So I have a very developer background. It was hard to kind of know if I'll be good at this and if this is something for me. So I actively seek out opportunities where I can get to see if this is for me, and I loved it. And to be honest, like today as an entrepreneur, like I think the biggest skill set that I feel like I'm empowered with is product, right? Like you've taken a lot, you've dealt with a lot of those challenges, granted at a much larger scale than I am right now, but it really prepares you to be able to take on bigger challenges as an entrepreneur.
Yes, the product mindset has really gotten you to be able to play and create your own space. And I think that's really the mindset that we're going to really explore today. So that brings us to the next poll, and which is for the audience, to really comment on that. What strengths do you believe that women bring into product management? And if I can have the next poll up. We have about 6 options. For those men who've been working with women product, as well as women who have either our product managers or are, have experience in. So the first option is diversity of thinking and ideas, better customer empathy, approach problems differently, higher emotional intelligence, collaborative work style, or all of the above. Or maybe none of the above, depending on how you want to answer it. Okay, diversity of thinking and ideas is 40%. Great to know. Better customer empathy. When I was writing the word better, I was wondering, is it going to get prejudiced of considering women to have better? But women bring in, a lot of literature talks about how women bring in a lot of intuition with analytics. And empathy, especially from a customer perspective, when you're designing, it's really about bringing in that intuition along with being able to use both your right and left brain, right, to design a product. So that's great to know as well, that's the second one on that list. Does it resonate with all of you? Does it resonate with all of you as speakers, the results?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, when I was earlier on in my career. So my mother is a career counselor, and ironically, she never did an aptitude test on me. So I chose computer engineering before she did that on me. But, every test that I've taken online tells me I'm almost bang in the middle between right-brained and left-brained. And I definitely think the product management and building digital products allows you to bring creativity with analytical thinking abilities. So it is a beautiful marrying ground for people who like that. So it's interesting you bring that up.
What struck you, Suparna, Deboshree? The first one was the diversity of thinking and ideas. Does that strike a chord in terms of how the strengths that you believe women bring to the table?
I am actually more looking at all of the above. That a lot of people, a lot of people have.
For me, when I put it down, I was like, "Oh my God, it is all of the above." And I thought, should I add none of the above? But I was biased against.
That's what is really fascinating. That really, and given that there are more men in the audience, that they are thinking in that direction, which really means that the skill set that women bring to the table is being recognized. So this is what gives me immense pleasure, that this recognition is there. Typically, we say that women do not speak too much. They're self-critical, and they do not. I mean, there was a survey, and it came out that women do not speak so much, advocate about themselves. But when people from the other gender are recognizing this without speaking so much, it's really an honor. So thank you so much for that.
And first point really is about cognitive diversity. When we talk about diversity, we break it up into a lot of physical elements, right? It's gender, it's special abilities, it's generation, age. But cognitive diversity is a very unrecognized form of diversity because it's very intangible. But it's that diversity which lends so much richness to problem solving. And when people bring in different perspectives, that's when new ideas are really born. And that's really when, when we look at brainstorming or when teams are forming, norming, it's a lot about the diverse set of perspectives. So women, if in a very stereotyped way, if we look at women as more creative and men as more analytical, and I'm very happy that Smitha, speaks about the product management journey really bringing both these sides together. It's both the masculine and the feminine energy, both abilities, and being towards the mid path. So having looking at this data and insights, I'm moving to a conversation where we know that the world, while we strive for equality and equity, it is still not equal. And there is a journey to go. While there's been a journey that has brought us this far, but there is still so many miles to go. And for a lot of women, and all of you have had your different journeys based on the choices that you've made, what you've been able to navigate. But when we look at the space of biases and prejudices and discrimination, which becomes an entry barrier for many women across many fields, right? So, and product management is another field, which has has certain biases and prejudices, because of which the talent pool of women is still pretty much small. So I'd like to ask Deboshree first. As an immigrant to the US, you may have experienced it, you may not have experienced it, you may have observed it. But were there any cross-cultural challenges, A, being a woman and being, an immigrant? Were there any cross-cultural challenges that you have experienced or observed, in the space of product management?
I'll be transparent. I think the industry is true, at least the tech industry in the Valley is pretty diverse and it's pretty balanced. In fact, there's more immigrants, if anything. That said, the challenges women face as an immigrant is just as many, if not more, than just being a woman, no matter what part of the world you are in. Some of the like a big part of being a product manager is influencing. Having the courage to influence, have the courage to stand up for what you think is the right thing to do for your customer and so on. And I have noticed being an immigrant and being on a visa puts this additional challenge on people, where they're not able to speak as openly as they would had they not been dependent on the bias or the challenges of being an immigrant. Essentially, it puts you in a different mindset in terms of confidence, in terms of being able to do what you want to do and speak for yourself. So I have personally faced that, and it's a function of the system. It's not individuals that I work with, it's a function of the system and being an immigrant in the country. So I will say, I think that's something to consciously separate from, your career journey, because I think there's almost no excuse for being an immigrant versus being able to speak your own mind. And you kind of want to be in an environment where you can speak your mind, immigrant or not, right? So it's been a journey for me to learn about separating the two out. And I feel I'm seeing more and more women starting to as you address this issue more people are able to more confidently, go out there and be themselves. So that's kind of what my experience has been.
Sure. One is the gender challenge of ensuring that you make your voice heard, and the other is that when you are not from the country, right? You have the other of how do I still, be seen as someone who is productive, who is here for my skill set, and a lot of people, when they make that shift, the cultural shift. Culture can, be an enabler. It can also be a barrier, and it's about navigating those nuances and to still succeed. And Smitha, while in your own words, as we were having a conversation, you really mentioned that for a long time you've been the only woman professional in the room, and that in itself, to get into the room, is a very big thing. And when I know talking about the glass ceiling is very cliched, and it's been that's a terminology which I hope doesn't exist anymore, but yet being that lone woman in the room says it all. So how has, how has it been for you? And what are some of the, biases at an unconscious level? Because, all biases are not out there, in your face. They're also very unconscious. Do you want to really speak about how did you, how did you overcome? What were the kind of unconscious biases that you could have faced, and how did you overcome that? Yeah.
Sure. So, I strongly believe that your confidence starts with your belief in yourself. There are factors you control and factors you don't control. And the factors you control, you better be in charge of it. And for the factors that you don't control, sometimes ignoring them helps. And sometimes just kind of putting it to the side, like Deboshree was saying, I've been mostly an East Coast person in the US. My journey is a little different, I think, Deboshree, than yours. Well, we have the Carnegie Mellon in common. But outside of that, I moved to the US when I was 18 to do my undergrad. So my journey is a little bit different than the typical immigrant journey, because I came here for my studies and I've become very much part of the American society for a very long time. I've spent my entire adult life here. And I think it also depends on each person's journey, if they've had to fight to be where they're at versus confidently just kind of being there. Right. I think I have been blessed in that, my parents were so young when they made the decision to say, okay, she wants to go do this, like she wants to do her undergrad in the US. And my entire extended family thought they were nuts to send me halfway across the world, a girl by herself. So for me, I think, you don't realize until later in your career how these little things shape you as a leader and shape you as someone, shapes your confidence. The fact that my parents didn't hesitate. They didn't hesitate at all. And it wasn't easy, trust me. My first year here as an undergrad, I kept saying, I want to go back home. Because, I'm not from here and had never lived outside the house. So for me, I think going back to the point of biases and prejudices, it affects you if you let it predominate how you behave. I have never brought gender into the equation, because why people value me is because of my skills, right? I have never used the fact that I'm a woman in any of my conversations. In fact, I've had people, in fact, right now, fortunately or unfortunately, I have a team that's predominantly male. And the fact that I'm their female leader doesn't actually come into the equation. In the past, I've had people who say, I'm amazed at how you don't even bring this into the equation, because for me, I'm like, okay, we're talking about the product, we're talking about the growth. I bring a skill set and I'm confident in that skill set, and I don't let anything else get in the way.
I mean, very well said. I think the whole difference, biases and prejudice can be daunting if, you don't have the confidence to face them. And, they can be mitigated if you really don't consider them and you forge ahead. And I think a lot of that confidence has to step in from a huge belief and conviction in terms of who you are. And you brought in about the fact that you were very confident about your skills. So as long as you're really confident about what you bring to the table, then you're not going to be really thinking about the prejudices and biases. So I always say that, you can make something into an elephant, or you can look at it as a mouse, because it's really about your own perspective as to what is the importance or what is the relation that you're giving that fear. So, but having said that, I mean, it's very easy. There are a lot, everybody doesn't really come with that mindset. So there are a lot of women, for whom these biases do become a barrier. And I'm going to open it up to all of you, because one is that the ones who've made it obviously have made it because, you're role models. you have succeeded. But you would have also experienced others who struggle, right? Who sort of struggle. And Suparna, as a young, a younger generation leader in a large corporate, as you've been trying to make your way up. Did you did you face any barriers? Do you anything that you'd like to share, and how did you mitigate them, and what were the kind of opportunities you leveraged?
One of the very lucky things that I had in my life were some of the sponsors that I had. So these were some of the people who really believed in my potential because they saw what I bring to the table. Like Smitha said, it's ultimately your competence, and that's what matters. And the competence that you bring to the table will definitely get you noticed. And this happened, and I got some sponsors, and this is something that I have realized, that when you're working your way up, it's very important to have some sponsors. These sponsors are the ones who advocate for you whenever there's a good opportunity, and also try to see the potential and bring out place you in a position where your potential will be valued. So this is something that I used to do. I was lucky to have in my life or in my career, throughout my career journey, quite some sponsors. On the other hand, what I also try to do is attend a lot of cross-company events. So as a young professional, I didn't have much information about what's going on around, and this was not really the way to grow up. What you need is to be aware of what's happening around, what's going on. And when I say that, it's about your product. What is the solution looking like? What are the challenges your company is facing? What are your customers looking for? And here, it's not about one single product, because when you're working in a big company like SAP, there are a lot of products, and each product is working in its own silo. But then we have to go beyond those silos and look at the whole solution as a whole for our customer, that what solves the problem of the customer. And this is where I had to really work with a lot of cross-company events where I attended, and also did a lot of networking in order to get the information and also brainstorm on how do we get solutions. So this is how I built my competence, and this competence is what finally led me to where I am. So pretty much I would agree with what Smitha said. It's at the end of the day, the competence that you bring to the table which takes you forward. Of course, there will be barriers, but what you need to do is also find some sponsors, earn some sponsors, and then go ahead. So that's what I would say.
No, and great. And when you say find sponsors, is it that you found sponsors, or the organization gave you a sponsor? Is it something that you found a sponsor by yourself, or did the organize, just for the audience? Because when you say that you need sponsors, it would be a question that how does an individual get sponsored, or does an organization have to? I'm just sort of trying to clarify for the audience. Yes.
Yeah, so it's more about, maybe I correct myself, you have to say you earn your sponsors. That's what I think we were also discussing, that it's not really something that will come to you automatically, but you really have to earn it, and you earn it through your competence. So when you are competent, so first and foremost, work on your competence. Once you have worked on your competence, there will be people who will notice you, and that's how you will earn your sponsors. So this is all about earning based on your competence.
So, we're doing this panel, of course, in one of the most unprecedented crises, globally. It's unfolded in different waves across the world, and it continues to unfold. Of course, India is really impacted by the second wave, whereas other countries have, have gone over the second wave, but still dealing with a lot of implications. During this time, and with the kind of work formats and the uncertainty that is really shaping both personal and professional lives, how do you think this period, is it going to be challenging more for women in this field, or are there opportunities? Because I always believe that you have both the sides of the coin, right? There will, and from your perspective, Deboshree, we can go with you first. That looking at this, a very challenging. We first thought about it was pre-COVID, post-COVID, but COVID's going on, right? It's going to be there for the next couple of years. So we're going to be in COVID times and whatever new normal means. But during this time, what do you think about the career of women in this field? What are there'll be challenges, and there are opportunities, and how would you like to paint that landscape for them?
Sure, Puja. So while I've started my entrepreneurship journey, yesterday was my last day at PayPal. I used to head product management at PayPal for a customer success team, and I had a team of 7, and we had more than 100 engineers that used to work with us. I'll be super transparent. So my approach is empathy first. Whether you're a man or a woman, I approach anybody's situation with empathy. And recognizing that there have been specific challenges that women, especially moms, have been facing, I think is the first step to providing support, right? And in my team, we had a mix of 30 and 70, so 30% of us were women. There have been challenges that women have to push through, trying to balance, waking up super early in the morning, taking care of the kid, while staying up at like 11 p.m. trying to work with the India team on their calls and so on. It's not been easy. But something that beautifully comes through is 2 things. One, it has really brought to light the resiliency women have. Women have really come through, at least in my own experience, the way they've powered through this is so inspiring. I mean, they've set themselves apart for, like, the world is going to come past COVID. But they've already built a certain skill set that I think we almost didn't recognize until earlier. The ability to multitask, the ability to power through this despite the challenges everybody's facing. And the other thing that I think has beautifully also come through is the support, like the need for this to be an equal partnership with your counterpart at home. So people who have actually looked at this as a partnership versus a very traditional relationship have struggled. But I think I'm hoping that this journey has given women the voice to say that if you want me to grow, and I do want to, you need to do your part as well. So I think both of these have helped tremendously. And it was a huge struggle at the start of 2020, I'll be transparent. And we actively gave, we recognize that there are women who need more time. There are actually men also who were really leaning in and needed more support from us as leaders to help them support their families, right? But now, like, it's 2021, it's almost like they're ready for what's next, right? Like, we're powering through, like, PayPal stocks are flourishing. It's not because of one person. It's not because of just the leadership team. It's because every individual has found their way through this to thrive. So I think it's a testament to how women have demonstrated their resiliency and ability to power through this.
Sure. Smitha? What would be your response to this?
Yeah, so I think given that we're all in technology space, I think switching over to working from home for the past, 14, 15 months was a relatively seamless transition for most of us. I absolutely recognize, I think something that Deboshree said that resonated with me is this start with empathy. I think that's important at any point in time. I think it's very, very important right now. Every time I get on a call with my colleagues in India, they're either they themselves are affected by the second wave, or they have family members that are affected by the second wave. So, we have to really pause and make sure they're okay before we talk about business. And I think that's super important. And it doesn't really matter if it's male or female, right? So it starts with empathy. I also think for me personally, at this point in my career, this has been a blessing in disguise. Not the pandemic. I wish this had never happened, but I think the fact that we're working from home, I see it as, the silver lining I see here is we all have to be careful and take all the precautions, etc. We're all working. I think of the positives as, hey, we all have jobs, right? We're all being productive. We're able to spend time with our families. I have 2 kids in high school. So for me, this is more time I'm having with them than I ever did before. Yes, I'm tired of cooking, but we're sharing those responsibilities. But I think it's also given me the opportunity to pause and learn, because the learning never stops. That's, if there's one message I want to give all the people who are interested in like listening to this conversation is, please don't stop your learning. Your learning does not ever stop. Your learning stops when we're in the grave, right? So please keep learning, especially in product management. You have to be relevant for you to keep making progress and to be contributing positively. So use the 2 hours you save in commute. I'm sure that 2 hours is a good benchmark in Delhi, in Bangalore, in the Bay Area, in New York City. I think, I'm in New York City area, Deboshree is in the Bay Area, and all of you are in India. The commute time, that's such a drain.
I'm in Bangalore, so.
So you're in Bangalore. See, I'm from Bangalore, so I totally get it. So every time I used to go to so when I worked in India, I used to work in Embassy Golf Links. So it was at least an hour from where I lived to get there and an hour back. So, that time that you save, and if you don't have to be on a video call, I joke about it. Today is not my video call day because I roll down from my bedroom in my pajamas and I don't turn on my video. So you save that time, use the time productively. And it could be for learning. It could be for self-improvement. It could be for so many things. So those are the silver linings I would ask everyone to think about.
Suparna?
Yeah, thank you, Smitha, for showing us the silver lining, and also Deboshree for talking about the empathy and aspects of it that are there today. I would like to draw the focus onto another angle of it, what the pandemic has brought in. Of course, it's not very happy situation, but then it's true. So we have to accept the truth. Earlier, one of the main aspects of product management is customer connect, the way you can talk to the customer. So if you're talking about design thinking, there is a particular phase called observation where you go and really observe your customer working. And we really have to be with the customer to see how they're working in order to be able to find a solution for them. This is not really 100% as it could have been if this pandemic was not there. So this whole virtual thing is taking out that essence of how you really find out customer problems and connect to them. And this is something that I see as a big challenge, and as a really big challenge to really formulate solutions for the customer. On top of that, I would say, like Smitha said, this is also one of my experience that more often than not, in the meeting room, you will be the only woman who's there. And that's when it's like the networking that is very important for a product manager comes into a problem over here. So networking, customer connect, these are the things that I see as being affected with this whole pandemic. However, like both my co-panelists said, if you look at the better side of it, I think right now in this time of collective grief, whenever we are starting a meeting, we are starting with, hey, how are you? Questions like, how is your family? And this is getting this connect, this human connect that is very much needed for empathy, like Deboshree also mentioned in a different context. So this customer empathy, this would ultimately also result in customer empathy and would result in bringing out some great products, is what I can only hope in this troubled times. That's how.
Can I add one more thing here? So I'll tell you. So again, like biases and prejudices and circumstances outside our control. It depends on how you let it affect you, right? In my current role, we introduced a new capability specifically in the product to deal with the pandemic. So my company works in the data analytics space for like all cloud-based platforms. We're focused mostly on the life sciences industry, which, you know, it's a great industry to be in right now, given that they're doing amazing, advances to help us during this pandemic. Part of the software that we work on is really about commercializing those technologies, right? Commercializing those drugs and therapies. We introduced a capability because the sales reps, they no longer were able to go talk to the doctors face-to-face because of the pandemic. And we introduced capabilities for omni-channel customer call planning and customer engagement that really made a huge difference for these reps because they couldn't go talk to their doctors. So again, it just depends on how you look at the pandemic. We introduced a new capability. We helped our customers continue to grow and get their therapies to reach the people who needed it the most. Disease didn't stop because of the pandemic. Therapies still needed to be given regardless of the pandemic. So I think, so I understand what you said, Suparna, about that connect, that ability to do like true observability in design thinking, to suspend judgment, all of that. I'm fully on board with that. But, this is not a situation in our control. Yes, it's challenging, but I think there are ways in which we can find a way to still make it work. And this is one example. And during this time, just so you know, our customers are facing the same situation. They're not able to see us in person and so on. So we make the effort. We all turn on videos. We're talking to them. We're still doing customer discovery sessions. We're doing UX validation sessions, all on Zoom or WebEx or whatever technology you choose. And we're making it work. So I think it's important to keep that perspective in mind.
No, absolutely.
Some of these things are outside our control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's a new way, a new world which is emerging for work, and it's all about how learning to get there, because there was a certain world which we knew for generations of, how to work. And there are a lot of opportunities which this new, the paradigm is giving. There will be certain challenges, but it's all about finding your feet. So thank you all, very insightful. And I'd like to now give space to the audience before we do the final poll question. While this was about 3 lessons, the reason I had to deconstruct it because there were just so many lessons rather than, just making it 3 lessons. So we have some audience questions, and I don't know if you ladies can see it. The first one really is about the whole entry barrier in education, in the space of technology. How can more women be, inspired to obviously come into get educated and then of course enter in the field. If anybody wants to take that, there's a question about pay parity. What are your thoughts about it? And then there's a question for Smitha and Suparna. And I'm just going, there are 3 questions, so just doing justice. How tough is for someone to completely diversify the career to product manager from project manager? What will be the challenges? So I think, Suparna, you were trying to answer that question, but again, it's specifically to both of you. So, you could take
Suparna, do you want to take that? Because I never did project management, so I'm a diehard product manager. So if you've done that before, please take it.
I haven't done project management either, but I have done other roles. So I have been a development manager, I have been a developer, and it's not really a big thing to be a product manager, because what you need to be a product manager is to have that eye of a CEO, right? They say that a product manager is the CEO of the product. In the sense, you should be able to think about the entire product end to end. what it takes to make your customer successful. So the moment you know how to do that, that's all you need and nothing else. If you're a project manager, it's of course an added advantage to you because you know how to manage the project, how to schedule, and if you are working with your development team, so you have your development teams, your stakeholders, your customers, so you need to have a good project running. So it already adds to your whatever you bring to the table. But I wouldn't say that it's a challenge. Rather, I would see that what you need to do is to think from a customer perspective. That's what is the main thing, be it any role, be it project manager or be it anything.
I completely agree with you, Suparna. I think even though the question was asked as project manager to product manager, I think you hit upon the key point, which is that customer empathy, understanding what is that customer need, which the customer themselves may or may not have recognized as a need. Right? So if you can demonstrate that you have that ability or that ability to see through and craft a solution that solves a customer problem, and, you know, let's face it, at the end of the day, translates to commercial viability of the product. It doesn't matter which background you come from, you can be a product manager.
Deboshree, do you want to add any perspective to that question? Though, you know, it wasn't addressed to you, but, you know, if you have any addition, because it is a, you know, interesting question, because there are people who go into the project management field, you know, who choose a certain path. There's product manager, and these are different careers. But if people want to, you know, transition from one to another, I liked what Suparna said. You have to think like a CEO, because you have to really look at it holistically, etc. But is there any other perspective to what both Smitha and Suparna have said? Yeah.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with both of them. And I think personally in my journey, like I started as a developer, I was an engineering manager before I transitioned into product. And the way I went about it was, like, you don't go to school for product management. You go to school for engineering, or you go to school for a different, you know, specific program. There is no school for product management. I think today there are, though. The way you go into it is you stretch, right? Stretch yourself, take up an opportunity, like go speak to your, you know, fellow product managers or bosses who can give you a stretch project, test those muscles out, because it is actually a beast of a function. You are doing multiple functions, you're wearing multiple hats, which is different from when you are in a specific role such as project or eng or arc, right? So it is important to firstly appreciate what it takes to be a product manager. Try a stretch project. That's what I did. I did a couple of stretch projects, and then I was offered the role. And it's a much, you genuinely have more appreciation for the challenges and how to be successful as a product manager.
There's one question which has come from Satish, if you all are seeing it, which really talks about that only 5% of the products are successful. So can you give top 3 reasons?
Maybe I can take that.
Yeah, I was going to say Suparna is like design thinking conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, what I think is mainly because I have seen a lot of products failing. That's why I wanted to take that question.
That's why I thought it's important. It's also, you know, there's success and there are failures, and
exactly,
yes.
Exactly. I have seen a lot of products failing. Why? Because we don't get into customers' problem. We try to find a solution and retrofit that solution into the customer's problem. That's the main reason. And we say, okay, we have thought about it technically. This is very much feasible, and this is very much viable. So this is what is going to work. We never think if this is desirable. This is what the customer really needs. And that is what actually is the root cause of failure. We really try to have to think about the problem. What problem are we solving? Unless and until we have hit that nail, this is very difficult to really get a successful product.
And Suparna, what you're really talking about is product market fit, right? And really, you know, I'm thinking back to, you know, it was a career day at my younger son's, you know, elementary school at the time. And they said, what is it that you do? So I had to explain to 4th and 5th graders what is product management. And it comes down to fundamental principles. You hit upon that, right? Understanding the customer problem, offering something that's attractive and they'll actually use it. And third, something that they're willing to pay for, right? If there's a free alternative, maybe your product will not be that successful, right? You have to add that value has to be there in your product. And how do you find out what's valuable to the customer? It starts with discovering the problem. It starts with validating whether what you're thinking about is what will make them want to use the product and therefore pay for it, right? And the third is, of course, all the rest of it that goes with it from a go-to-market perspective. I think the question was also saying, is it because of There's no one reason the failure occurs, but I think you can increase the success of a product by doing the upfront thinking and the upfront work very diligently and not taking shortcuts.
Great. So I think we're just about 3 minutes. And this has been a very interesting discussion with diverse perspectives. And thank you, audience, for the questions. We have a last poll. We can end with that. And if the panelists or the audience have any perspectives. So which of the following enablers will help to grow more women in product management? And the options are mentoring, career sponsorship, championing success or role modeling, flexible work, inclusive work culture.
There's no all of the above.
Yeah, so this was just to point and to say that, if there was just that one or two things that can make this work. I mean, we always have death by initiatives, but if it's that one or two factor, which is really the,
I think women supporting women. There needs to be more women supporting more women. Like, period. In every, whether mentoring, sponsorship, whatever it is.
Yeah, it was very telling, the very first poll that we saw, that there were men who had worked with women product managers, but the number of women who had worked with women product managers was low. And I think that's actually a very telling poll. We have to do our part to bring to support that, and I'm super excited. I've actually made an offer to another woman to join my team very soon. So there you go.
Okay, so 60% goes to career sponsorship. 53% goes to inclusive work culture. 53% goes to mentoring. 47% to flexible work, and championing success, 27%. Great. So interesting, dialogue, insights. And to you ladies, are there any last one lesson that you'd like to leave the audience with? Any one lesson that you'd really like to leave them with, which has really defined your journey? You may have spoken about it already, but just a reiteration. Yeah.
For me, so you've heard me say this, Puja, it is just be super confident in your own abilities. Nobody can give you that. It's only you. It comes from within, right? And I want to tell you a quick story, hopefully. When I had first started my product management journey, I was the developer on the product that I became the product manager for. So it was a fairly seamless transition for me into product management. And I was addressing an audience of 400 people at our annual company event as a keynote speaker with my engineering counterpart who had been with the company for 20 plus years. So he was miffed that he had this young product manager co-presenting at a keynote event. And I'm sad to say that he did everything in his power to undermine me during our practice for the keynote for so many different ways. I was trembling and my voice shook when I opened the keynote, but I knew my product And I started the presentation with, at the time, it sounds kind of silly right now, but at the time, it was this little, thing that popped up and introduced the session. It was a notification mechanism in the product that we wanted to introduce to the audience. So that little agent actually introduced my session. And even though my voice shook for the first 15 minutes of my talking, I plowed through it. And I think that just built all the confidence I needed for the rest of my career.
And it's like shaking when you have to go up on stage for the first time, and public speaking is always so super confident, super confidence in your ability. So that's your one, lesson that you'd like to, or takeaway that you want the audience to take away. Suparna, that one, takeaway from your side.
Competence. That's the main thing that I would say. Build your competence, learn, and build your competence and broaden your knowledge. And that's what will give you what you need at the end of the day.
You're cutting edge, keeping your knowledge leadership, and continuously focusing on your competence. Great. Deboshree?
Fully agree with both my co-panelists. I guess my last one is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. There are no failures. Every failure is a step toward the next learning. So.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. This was very interesting. And one always learns, even if you're a moderator, there's so much of mutual learning that happens just through the answers and questions. So this was really a pleasure. Thank you, Product Leadership Institute, for giving us this opportunity.
Puja, before you leave, we have a quick request. Could you please pick the best question asked? The winner for the best question.
Oh, okay. Winner for the best question. Okay.
What's the best question according to you?
So I would say that, there was a question failure, but I would still give the question of the person who asked about the career from product to project manager, because that keeps coming up. And I think that's a point of dilemma. So, I'd probably like to recognize that question. Yeah.
So that question was from Smriti. Yes. So Smriti, congratulations on winning the free digital course. We'll get in touch with you shortly with the reward. Thank you, speakers, for the brilliant and engaging discussion. Really great insights. And thank you, Puja, for facilitating this session so seamlessly.
I'm glad we ended on time. Thank
Absolutely.
you. This was a great experience. Thank you all. Thank you.
We have enjoyed having you with us, Smitha, Deboshree, and Suparna. It's been a complete pleasure. Please accept this certificate of appreciation from the Institute. So if you scan the QR code on the screen, it will take you to a dedicated Hall of Fame page that we have created for you, a small gesture. It holds a recording of this session. Please share it within your network, and we'll be sharing the recording of this session on our YouTube channel as well.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you once again for sharing your experience with us, folks. And I'm certain you have inspired our audience to pursue a career in product leadership, definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Very nice speaking with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Puja, as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Before we conclude, yes, audience, please take this poll though on our screen. Share your feedback with us. Give me a second. Right, yeah. So your feedback is critical for us to make improvements for the next round of the festival. So please let us know your thoughts. So folks, this was the final session of the product edition of the Product Leadership Festival. Can't wait to see you all at our next edition in July, the data edition, with world-class leaders sharing their learnings and insights. Please follow our LinkedIn page to register and participate in the exciting contest that we have running for you. You can reach out to us on our website or at engage@ipl.edu and let us know your feedback on this festival. With that note, I end tonight's session. Happy learning and stay skilled. Have a great night. See you all soon.